Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Major roster developments last night, just one day after FaZe said that their starting four have nothing to worry about at all. That may not be the case any longer. Alluka could well be signed to FaZe in the very near future. That is the big rumour of yesterday, not as a starting player just yet, but you might imagine that could only be a matter of time. Very much enjoy to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. We've got a lot to get into today. Now, starting with everything that's happened over the last few days with regard to Lqgend and the Vancouver Surge. So they confirm, although, you know, this isn't real, that Cowboy's coming in. Trey put out his sensational lineman card last night. But this was all the big question on what's going to happen in replacing Legends. Could they go and get Alluka? The rumour was that they tried, or at least they gave it a go. Decided to get on the phone maybe one or two times, but that was realistically never going to be going anywhere. So it seems instead they are moving in the direction of the Cookie Monster. Formal says that, look, Lqgend just needed some help. He was not a good fit there. Those three weren't a good fit for him. It was bound for them to fail. It happens. You know, can you blame him taking the offer? Lqgend stock, it wasn't great to come into the league, at least as a Call of Duty player, as a Halo player. His exploits are pretty legendary, and he's a champion, world champion over there for good reason. Had he stayed in the Call of Duty League with Surge for too much longer, I think, yes, his stock probably would have taken even more of a hit than it already has, but I don't think it's over yet necessarily, right? And if Lqgend has a good stint in challenges, improves a fair bit with the Stallions, I think we could still see him back in the Pro League at some point. Renegade's currently given a good go on the Huntsman as well, but looks like TJHaLy is going to be the boy to come in, and it's not been made, I don't think, official by Surge yet, although we'll just have a quick look, but it has been made official effectively by the Telluride Bush Gaming, who are, well, they've confirmed that he's out the door. So this is what Ronnie says. They acted quickly to replace Lqgend. They've brought in Tej. Maybe they should have done that before the season even began. So it's interesting with Tej, right? Because to be honest, I thought after his solid stint over the last couple of years with the Ravens, I thought he was probably going to be in the league again anyway. He has, to be fair, kind of been cooking down there in challenges. Of the players who are on that border, I can certainly see the value in bringing TJ back in. He can run both roles. Excellent search and destroy player. Tons of experience at this point, right? It still doesn't kind of feel like it, but TJ is absolutely a veteran of the scene at this point. The type of player that, you know, could well have helped a guy like Lqgend maybe if they were on the team together. But I think that there's plenty of other players on that team that also need plenty of help when it comes to how to put this roster together and how to go forward from here. I think this is clearly an upgrade as it stands. As I say, long term, who knows, Lqgend could get really good, as Shotzzy did. But for now, it's an upgrade. The funny thing about it is that it might be an upgrade, but how much does it really improve them, right? Are they still 12th? Like, are they 11th? I don't know. They're probably now better than Ravens, I would think. But who knows? Obviously, speaking of Ravens, Gwinn and TJ, they were on that Ravens team. Now they're back together again here on the Vancouver Surge. It's all rather interesting because Gwinn, we thought, joined Surge because they were looking to build around Lqgend, and Gwinn was pretty excited to play with him. But, you know, maybe that, let's say, optimism was misguided because the reality is it was always going to take Lqgend some time. Maybe Gwinn would be right if Lqgend was just as good at COD as he was at Halo, sure. But we never knew that was going to be the case initially, right? So T just done pretty well in challenges. The scrim set that he played, presumably on Lqgend's account yesterday against Miami, went pretty well. I think they actually won it 4-3. So TJ is back in. Telluride Bush Gaming say thank you TJ, once a bush, always a bush. So not exactly sure what they're doing instead. Actually no, we do know because they tweeted it and I already got the tweet up. Fire's coming in instead. So yeah, don't know why I forgot about this tweet, but yes, Fire 40 as it used to be known, now of course Fire. Now, interesting for Fire, right? Because famously, he was the player that kind of started this whole trend of players getting their chance in Tier 1 in the CDL and then never getting a chance again. Now, Fire, he came in on Paris, famously, in the Cold War season, had a very difficult stint, but it was, to be fair, far from the worst stints that we have seen. Like, there's definitely been worse stints that players have had over recent years than Fire had on Paris that year. But after that was over, pretty much everyone recognised, yeah, that was tough, his stock is cooked, and, you know, you're not going to pick up Fire again because you're going to try and find the next Simp, was effectively the logic from then on. And that was understandable logic. But I think Fire's done pretty well in challenges over the last few years. A player that hopefully can get himself back onto the radar. Some players have elected to change their gamer tag to try and get out of that kind of stigma. But yeah, hope he goes well on the Telluride Bush Gaming. But TJ's in the Pro League. Wonder how that's going to get on with Surge. As I say, do they get much better? Do they get substantially better? But with abe and Lunarz and Gwinn, with TJ, I still think TJ's got a bit of a job on his hands, really. Like the Gwinn, abe, Lunarz trio. I just can't believe that they ever thought that was going to work with Lqgend, really. There are questions. I think abe and Gwinn, I rate them. Lunarz has yet to convince me, but maybe this is the iteration that will make that happen. So intrigue your thoughts in the comments. Now, couple of clips to share. The Flank did a pretty sensational episode last night. One of the things they were getting into was FaZe. What's happening with FaZe? Because they've started out reasonably well. I think they're 2-1 in the league right now. They've won a couple of game 5s. They're looking solid enough, but their hardpoint hasn't been good enough, that's for sure. Simp talks a lot about, well, you know, in a few months, towards the end of the year, he's expecting them to get really good. And I don't doubt that necessarily, but Simp has been a pretty big hard carry for that roster so far. O4's been okay. Abuzah's generally been good enough. Drazah's been pretty underwhelming, right? And like, I think Drazah is a very highly rated player by the pros themselves, and for good reason. Maybe not so much by the fans at times, but over the last few years, I think Drazah's, let's say, value that he's brought to the teams he's been on, Thieves and then really FaZe, has been underrated to an extent. And I know that Donnie Tempers said on our show that Kenny rates Drazah as one of, if not his best teammate ever. So Drazah is held in high regard by the players, and I think for good reason. But the end of the Black Ops 6 season and the start of this season has not been especially good. And it is clear that there is some pressure on him to turn this level of performance around, as much of a grinder as he is. So talk about FaZe. Let me share a couple of clips, and then we'll talk about the big rumour that FaZe Alluka is going to become a reality.
I'm sure Ben has like the same like angle, like with every like, I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, and I trust these guys to, you know, work on their problems and just get through it.
I'm just wondering if their infrastructure is what it needs to be to meet these expectations to develop some of these rookies. We've seen it in the league prior, especially with Dashy. He doesn't try ever.
I don't even know.
We know Dashy hates to try, and he kind of drags his teams down, but that's why they have Merc.
Exactly, and we know it's Scrap. You know, he's just gonna give you kills, and he's not gonna get the time. You're gonna need to put a Slayer, not a Slayer, around the time, and if you do that, then you're probably gonna have some issues.
Yeah, already said that. Is that a good or bad impression?
Yeah, bro. Everything. Here.
The federal government's off.
Oh, and now he's talking about the federal government.
Easy to get visa appointments and process.
He's talking about the federal government now.
Yeah. The government's involved now with the Flank.
Tom's got to be greased, bro. Tom's got to blow it up because the teams that are at the top have more time than the teams at the bottom do. Those losses for the bottom teams are way worse than the ones for the top teams.
We can look at the salary sheet, bro. There's only fucking 6 teams that are even trying to win this year. That's a fact. The other 6 teams are trying to win.
Why did you say
It's a fact.
I don't think
That's the problem.
Bro, you just said FaZe had to blow it up. You just said FaZe need to blow it up after they won. And you said they dazzled them when they won the HP.
Because right now, I don't think FaZe can.
And you just said they need to blow it up. They need to blow it up when the game's been out for a month.
Yes, they need to drop their weakest link and get
For
Alluka.
Alluka, Puka, Nakua, bro. That's what we have convinced. That's what we're trying to convince this to get the next Crimson. Alluka, Puka, Nakua.
I don't give
This
a fuck.
motherfucker is not like that, bro.
The reality
Because they're
is...
not.
I can't either.
The reality is... changes way sooner than they do, bro. That's a fact.
You know what that reminded me of? The Savannah Banana.
Yeah, Savannah.
All 3 majors, and then make a change.
So yesterday we talked about K-San and some others kind of implying that, look, FaZe aren't going anywhere, their roster isn't going to make changes. Don't know what you guys are talking about this Alluka kid. Yeah, he looks good in challenges, but he's fried in 1 cup. You know, we're not that interested. But apparently, no, they are particularly interested, and reportedly, they are looking to make a precautionary move to sign German wonder kid Alluka to the franchise. So, look, they've started off reasonably well. They beat Paris, they beat Toronto in 5. But it's not all been sunshine and rainbows, and Alluka looks like a potential next up type player. Shotzzy called in the next Mercules. It's pretty good gas, and other players have given him a lot of credit for his performances in challenges as well. He's also got a lot of confidence on him, as we'll see in a couple of minutes towards the end of the video. So, look, Alluka was going to get picked up somewhere. I think it was arguably inevitable even before this year began. People were talking a fair bit about this Alluka kid being a threat in challenges, one to watch. And especially after what Mercules did last year, people are saying, well, Alluka looks like the star in challenges right now, somebody's going to give him a go. Now, Surge might have wanted him to replace Lqgend, but, I mean, come on, right? First of all, that wouldn't have made any sense in terms of roster composition anyway. Alluka would be cooked in that situation. He would never have been interested in that. So which other organisation could be interested? Look, it's not going to go to a team like Miami. They've got their Spanish thing going on. The other teams at the top, Paris, obviously OpTic, Toronto, reasonably happy with where they are. The question, at least in terms of top teams, was Thieves or FaZe, right? Thieves have looked suspicious at best in terms of their level. Kenny's numbers especially have not started off particularly well, and then FaZe, as we know, it's been a little bit up and down for them, and Alluka can arguably run both roles, but if he was to run an AR or even an SMG, there is potentially room for him in that roster anyway. So, look, Rafi said 6 teams reached out to them with some sort of intrigue, but FaZe, of at least the big name teams that are apparently interested, they are the one to join, you would think, because, look, there may be many teams. If Ravens are phoning up Rafi and saying, hey, how about Alluka? It's not going to make sense for Alluka or for Omit to make that happen more than likely. So if there is a top team interested, that will probably make sense for both parties. And as we discussed yesterday, I think this makes a fair bit of sense. Alluka to FaZe, but as a substitute for now. So that's the big rumour, that FaZe Vegas are set to sign Alluka onto the bench of their roster. They will keep this starting 4, but when Alluka is ready to go, which also inquires visa stuff, because as Zinni says, his visa will have to be changed. He's currently on a student visa, so he'll have to get a proper visa, a work visa. That will take some time. So this isn't a quick turnaround. By the time he is back and got the visa sorted and eligible to play again, we might be talking after Major 1. Could be pretty convenient timing, potentially, for FaZe if they wanted to make a move. And I think this idea generally is very strong for FaZe because, Zinni also implies he put his GM hat on here and he's talking about from his perspective. But the point I suppose that he's making, I think he did another tweet that kind of implied this as well, but the idea is it works both ways. If Alluka's on the bench and they're looking good, then Alluka's putting the pressure on their starting roster to perform, so that's perfect. Now, if they don't perform to expectations, then okay, they bring in Alluka and see how it goes post-Major 1. So I think for both parties it makes sense. For FaZe, for sure, this is kind of a no-brainer, and also it keeps Alluka away from other teams, right? Because what if Thieves have a terrible Major 1, they want to make a change, Alluka was the kid to get, and they've missed the boat, right? So that's FaZe's advantage there also. For Alluka, it also works. He's going to need a little bit of time anyway to get the visa stuff resolved, and going to FaZe as your first org sitting on their bench doesn't get much better than that on paper. And after what OpTic have done with Mercules, of course there's going to be talk about whether FaZe could try and find somebody a little bit similar. So it is very interesting. Of course we'll see how this goes. If it does come true, and this is locked in very shortly, maybe Thieves are seeing this and thinking, oh, could we do the same thing? But they might be a little bit too late. Look, I'm pretty sure this FaZe team is going to run it up until at least Major 1. I'd be very surprised if there are too many more changes before we get to that point. But nonetheless, it's going to be a big deal for the league if Alluka does join FaZe and all the potential implications that has. Just one final clip to close out here with, because Alluka, look, he streams and he talks a fair bit on his stream, but clearly a confident guy, as well he should be. And look, people are going to roast him and say, oh, you ain't Mercules, bro, and all this. But look, we'll see how it goes. I'm never going to deride a player for having confidence in themselves and their ability. He talks a little bit about Kenny here and says, oh, Kenny has not looked very good out there, bro. But and then he says, like, I'm trolling, he's a world champion, I'm nothing compared to him in all this, but maybe I'll get up that roster, right? But maybe FaZe have got there first. So hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
Go to Scrappy, his tweet, and write down, bro, pick up Alluka, you idiot, bro. Lqgend doesn't look good out there, bro. You need to pick up Alluka. You guys should do that, bro. Oh, I'm trolling, I'm sorry. Trolling, I swear I'm trolling. Don't do that, boys. Bro, I'm trolling, boys. I'm not serious, bro. Bro, Kenny's a world champion, bro. I'm a 18-year-old foreign idiot, bro. Even if I'm saying anything, don't take it serious, bro. What the fuck? Bro, Kenny's a world champion, bro. This guy could be my fucking daddy, bro. Like, if he stands in front of me, I'm calling him daddy, bro. Like, he's a fucking world champion. I ain't shit to him, bro. What am I? Fucking Challenger Cup winner, bro. Like, you know what I mean? I be trolling, bro, and they know that. Like, I'm sure some 18-year-old fucking idiot, bro, has attention is calling fucking Kenny. Like, bro, Kenny's him, bro. I swear. Like, I didn't even say it. Bro, I said he doesn't look good out there, bro, because it's the truth. Like, bro. Like, bro, guy's a fucking champion, bro. Like, guy's him, bro. Like, hello?